All right, guys, welcome to another Fury Report. We're here with a very special guest, Big Fitz. Big Fitz, how's it going? And how's your day been?
It's going great, man. Having a great day. It's been a lot of relaxing. I did a lot of driving yesterday down to San Antonio and back.
Right. All right. Well, I'm Jeff.
I'm Case.
I'm Michael.
And this is Friends of Fury Report with Big Fitz. So let's get started. Big Fitz, how did your wrestling journey start? What got you interested? Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Oh man, that's a fun story actually. So I was tricked into professional wrestling. I was bamboozled. Like most of us, I watched when I was a kid, and I was super into it, especially during the Monday Night Wars. And and previously, the first match I ever saw was I was probably about 10. Yokozuna and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Knockdown Challenge. That was the first thing I saw. I was just flipping channels as a kid, watched that, and I was hooked. But I was trying to make friends at this new church I was going to, and this was several years now, 3 years ago now. And a couple of guys were talking about wrestling, so I kind of inserted myself into the conversation. And they said, "Well, we're going to go watch on Saturday. Do you want to go?" I said, "What, SmackDown, Raw? I don't know what happens on Saturday." Like, no, this little place in Bedford, this little place in a strip mall. Called Metroplex Wrestling. I did not know until then that indie wrestling was a thing. I had no idea. I thought if you want to watch pro wrestling, WWE was it.
Yeah.
So I started going, and I brought my daughter the first time, and that's kind of how I got into it. Was I didn't think she was going to enjoy it, and we went there, and she had an absolute blast. And for like the next year, every single Saturday we were going. And the guy that owned the place, Stephen Kirby, who's also my trainer, he kept coming up to me, "Hey man, you're big, you're athletic. You ever think about being a professional wrestler?" I said, "No, man, I can't do that. I'm a dad. That's not something dads do." And my daughter got so into it that we had her birthday party at MPX, and I reached out to Kirby, rented the place out. He booked all her favorite wrestlers. And he called me up before the birthday happened and said, "Hey, what do you think about having the heels come in and try to ruin your daughter's birthday, and Daddy kicks their ass and saves the day?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it sounds. I mean, what dad would say no to that, right? So I said, "Yeah, it sounds great." He says, "Okay, cool. Come to training on Wednesday and learn a couple of things." And I had no idea at the time. Of course, he was tricking me into getting into this. So I went to the training one day, and he showed me some things. And then the birthday comes along. The second to last match, Brent McKenzie squished the ref, so the ref was out. They needed a guest referee, and that's going to be Brooklyn's dad, of course.
Oh, bad, yeah.
And about halfway through, Kirby gets mad because I'm not counting fast enough. He pushes me. I push him back. Of course, he takes a big bump. A couple of his buddies roll in and start beating on me. I toss them out of the ring. He comes over, throws a punch. I grab it. I pick him up, big body slam. And I'm standing there in the center of the ring. And I've got, Brooklyn, between kids and their families, like there's probably 60 people in here, which is pretty good for a birthday. And they're all cheering and screaming and yelling. And I'm standing there under the lights going, "Oh, I got to do this."
Yeah.
So I was working nights at the time, so it didn't really work out right away. But shortly after, I got a new job, and I immediately started training. So that was I started training probably right about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I want to circle back to something you said that you were a huge fan growing up and had no idea about the independent scene, and that's kind of how I am. Like, grow up watching, I remember being a little kid and watching the Monday Night War and had no idea of any kind of wrestling outside of WWE, WCW. So, and that's back when independent wrestling was bigger than it is now. You had territories and stuff like that now that you learn later on. So, I mean, that's interesting that, obviously you were older than me at the time and were able to perceive more of the world. So what is your thoughts on the independent scene now? How do you navigate through it?
It's really interesting. There's obviously pluses and minuses to how things are now. I think one of the biggest advantages is almost everybody has a streaming service or some sort of,
Mhm.
you know, they're either on Fight or they're on their own thing. You know, Metroplex Wrestling has its own network. You've got people streaming on YouTube. And so getting yourself in front of people, I think, is
Mhm.
easier than it's ever been. The downside, of course, is it's kind of saturated, right? There's just so much product out there.
Right.
But you know, I think there's a lot of great opportunities to be had, and because there's so many opportunities, it affords, you know, one of the things that I decided to do a while back was, you know, be pretty selective about what I get involved in. I mean,
Right.
I got a good shoot job, you know, pays real well. Like, unless I start making John Cena money, wrestling is never it's never going to be the thing that pays my bills, you know.
Yeah.
But the advantage to that is because there's so much product out there, there's so much stuff going on, you know, I can be pretty selective and still end up wrestling 3-4 weekends a month if I want to.
Right.
So it's a saturated market, but there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that kind of creates a situation where, you know, there's a place for just about everybody. There's a place for the comedy act, you know, there's a place for the 39-year-old dad who is just living his childhood dream, and you know, I'm probably never going to end up on WWE, and that's fine, you know. There's a place for just about anybody, and that's kind of cool.
Right. And you know, it's kind of interesting that you say that, because you know what we're doing right here with this podcast, all of us that do this had no idea how well receptive and appreciated it would be. We had no idea how accepting the wrestling community was just towards anyone who loves it and is a fan. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
if we sat around and started a basketball podcast, you know, we wouldn't be having NBA stars wanting to come
Yeah.
on, stuff like that. So it's interesting, and it's so cool to see how receptive the wrestling community is.
Yeah, man, and you know, we all, at the end of the day, we're all trying to make some money. We're all trying to have a good time, right? And but it is a little surreal, man. Like, you know, I used to play music back in the day, and I had the same reaction when I went to an after party one time after a show. This was 15 years ago, maybe. I went to an after party after a show, and these girls, one of whom I later married, she's in the next room. These girls had our pictures up on the walls, you know,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait, you have our pictures up on the walls? We have fans. That's weird. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, you guys reached out to me, and like, these guys want to talk to me? What? I don't know. Okay. You know, it's sort of surreal. And I think, at least for me anyway, it's kind of hard to get used to the idea of having fans.
Right. And it's the exact opposite with us. It's been surreal for us that you guys want to come on and you know, are interested in even joining and talking with us. I mean, so it's a mutual thing, and it's very unique to wrestling. I feel like, yeah, I don't think it's like that in any other sport or, you know, any other aspect as far as that matter.
Well, you know, we're all, at the end of the day, we all like talking about ourselves. We all have egos. We wouldn't be wrestlers if we didn't.
Right.
But I think it's got a different dynamic than other sports, man, and other pursuits in general. Like, almost every one of us, you know, we're huge fans growing up. And so every one of us at some level is living out that childhood dream, whether it's somebody working, you know, at a VFW somewhere in front of 20 people, or somebody who's, you know, headlining WrestleMania. Every last one of us, from top to bottom, grew up dreaming of doing this. So I think that kind of makes us inclined to, you want me to come on your podcast and talk about wrestling? Absolutely, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans, you know. And when we had started the show, we had posted it in SWE Facebook group and everything. And I had seen that Jim Fitz shared your post. I'm like, Jim Fitz is a wrestler. He shouldn't know me. But and then that's just kind of how it started off with, oh, he's interested. And so that's when we reached out to you, because we're all fans. And it just worked out that way. And we're just really happy we're able to have you on.
Glad to be here, man. It's been kind of wild and a lot of fun. I've had some pretty good opportunities lately, and, you know, learning from some extremely smart people in wrestling. So, you know, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah. So while we're on that subject, our first impression of you was at the Irving Convention Center when you wrestled Charlie Haas, and privilege for that matter, for the SWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that experience and how that went.
Well, you know what? That guy knew as soon as I hit him. He knew he was in trouble. So it didn't take long for his boys to come in there and take apart my knee.
It did not take long.
It was crazy, man. I've done some some shows at places like MPX, and that's a great place. They run weekly. They have runnings, and because they run weekly, they can develop long-term storylines and stuff. And doing some of the things at OHB, but going out with like that light rig and that huge entryway and stage and that many people, I went over and handed my hat to one of the kids, and place started cheering. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people, let me and then I went out there and got my ass kicked in front of all those people. So
it happens.
But hey, I'll tell you what, you gave Charlie the work. You gave him the business.
You gave him
not many people do that. So
you saw the look of fear in his eyes when I grabbed him by the throat.
Yeah. Especially with those 2 bodyguards he had on the outside.
Right.
So.
I mean, obviously you did good enough. He wants you on the side. So
yeah.
That's usually how it goes, right? The first credible threat to somebody like that, they have to recruit them.
You have to join.
Yeah. Mike, what you got?
So Fitz, thanks again for coming on. I actually want to tell you a story. So I was at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view a few weeks ago, and I should say a month ago. And I was in line at the concession stand to get nachos. This guy comes up behind me. He's in the concession stand line. He proceeds to tell me he's a huge wrestling fan. He's actually a wrestler himself. He shows me his Instagram page, shows me some of his action. And I asked him as a wrestler, I said, who do you want to wrestle more than anyone else? You know who he told me? I didn't know his name. He said, I want Big Fitz. I want to wrestle Big Fitz.
No.
And you may know him. His name is Casey Clay. Wrestled for MPX.
You know what? I do know Casey Clay. Yeah.
So shout out Casey. Do you want to talk about your
him.
relationship with him? And do you want to accept that challenge right here on the Fury Report?
Look, man, if somebody wants to book it, I'm down. But that guy weighs about 160 pounds. I don't think he's got much of a chance. I trained with him quite a bit actually. So I was working shows when he was just getting started. Actually, it's kind of funny. Our families know each other real well. His mom is the administrator at my church. We know each other quite well.
What a small world.
But yeah, if he that's crazy that he mentioned me, that he wanted to wrestle. You see what I'm saying about it being kind of surreal. Like I've started seeing myself show up in people's top 10 lists, and I'm always like, really? People? But yeah, if somebody wants to book that, I'll get in the ring and kick Casey's ass. That's fine.
Well, I told him to come to the training camp, come to the show. So if you see him at the next training camp, let him know we've had this conversation, and you'll take him up on that challenge.
I hope he does come. Those camps, they're valuable. I mean, you're learning from guys like guys like Rodney Mack, guys like Jack Steiner. I mean, these guys, they know what they're doing, and they've done things in wrestling, and it's always good to get outside of wherever you're training and get some perspective from somebody else. I feel like between attending those camps and going down to the DoggPound, with Rodney, like I've made more progress probably in the past 6 months than I had in the previous year, just by virtue of getting in front of new perspectives on things,
So before we talk about the DoggPound, which we definitely want to do, while we're on the subject, you're talking about how surreal it is and how, how quickly things have come to fruition for you. And it's kind of the same for SWE. It's a company that has exploded, and it's getting notoriety. It's on a rocket ship. For you coming in when you did, while it's shooting up on the rise like this, tell us your thoughts or your attitude towards SWE, and where can you see it going, stuff like that.
Well, I think that my wife kind of put it best, right? When we were talking about where my wrestling career was going to go and what I was going to do, and she said because I was working a lot of shows at the time, and to be honest, I was getting kind of burnt out. And she looked right at me and she said, "Look, you need to just do the things that fill your cup." And she kind of categorized, which is like, CWF, the Christian Wrestling Federation, that's a ministry that I'm involved in, I believe is important, and it, you know, it's something that I believe in very much, and you know, but also, you know, what's things are you interested in? What's going to be fun for you? Working against people that you can learn from, you know, versus just taking everything that comes my way. And so when the opportunity to work at SWE came up, and you know, I had previously worked Rodney at the OHB show, you know, these are people I can learn from. I mean, you've got minds like Kevin Sullivan and James Beard and you know, Rodney Mack, Charlie Haas. These guys are people that can teach me an incredible amount about wrestling and about how to do it well. And so for me, that was the primary motivation, right? Like, I hope that SWE has a ton of success, and part of that is self-interest. But you know, I'd like to see people that I like have success. You know, Bam Bam is a good friend of mine, and so I hope that there's a lot of success there. But at the end of the day, you know, having a good time and learning from legends, that's what I'm in it for. So as long as I can keep doing that, I'm involved. You know what I'm saying? And as long as I can keep being useful to them.
And that was the draw for all of us. You know, we go to Carthage mainly based on Teddy Long, Mark Henry, you know, Boogeyman, the guys that we grew up watching. So that draws us in, and you get there, and it's just it's awesome. It's an awesome experience. But Mike, you got anything else? Another question? We're gonna touch on the DoggPound, but before
I had a funny conversation with Boogeyman a while back.
Oh,
actually.
Let's hear it. Awesome.
You know, because you guys probably are aware he got into the wrestling game pretty late in life, right? And we were just kind of talking, and I said, yeah, you know, there were a lot of people that said I was too old to do this. I guess it must have hit a nerve, because as soon as I said that, his head snapped up from what he was looking at, and he's like, "Fuck him." But yeah, you see what I mean? There's so much knowledge and so much, you know, especially for a guy at my stage in my wrestling career, where I've only been doing it a couple of years, and these guys have forgotten more about wrestling than I know. So it's an incredible opportunity to be able to learn from guys like this.
It is.
I wanted to get your reaction, Big Fitz. We had a few huge announcements when it comes to SWE Fury management. First being Aaron Presley, known as the voice of SWE Fury, recently announced as the new executive director of live event operations. Along with that, we've talked about Kevin Sullivan, just announced new director of wrestling operations. Wanted to get your take on these guys stepping up into management.
Well, you know, Aaron was that wasn't surprising to me at all. You know, just from the few shows that I've been involved in, right? Like, you know, of course, everybody sees him announcing and everybody sees him doing that, but the amount of behind the scenes stuff that guy has his hands in and is directing and moving pieces and parts. I mean, you know, I've said before about people in those types of capacities, you know, there's 30, 40, 50 wrestlers sometimes on shows. There's one of guys like him, you know.
Right.
If you really think about it, guys like him are far more valuable and indispensable than, you know, if I break my ankle and can't make the show's going to be fine. If Aaron's not there, they're in trouble. So that you know, that made perfect sense to me, seeing just how much stuff he was involved in. I don't know him all that well, but you know, like I said, got his hands in just about everything. And then what can you say about Kevin Sullivan, man? The guy, I mean, I was a huge WCW mark during the Monday Night Wars. That guy's responsible for some of the best storylines in wrestling. To have, you know, a creative mind like that, even just accessible to me, is wild. You know, and there's some super like fanboy moments too. You know, he came up after my match in Lubbock. You know, he had kind of talked about how things were supposed to go, and he came up to me and he said, that's exactly what I wanted. And I was like, oh shucks, you know, but this guy's a legend, you know, and he's giving me a compliment. It was great.
So while we're on the topic of legends, I hate to put you on the spot, but do you have anybody that stands out in particular as an inspiration for you, or and like as your in-ring career?
You know, I was a huge fan of Kevin Nash, and you know, when the whole invasion storyline happened and the birth of the NWO, that was the greatest stuff for me.
Yeah.
You know, but one of my favorite moments in wrestling actually was when DDP pretended to join and then gave them both a diamond cutter. You know, I mean, so that whole era of wrestling, and most of the guys during that time are huge, heroes of mine. I mean, Sting was my absolute favorite, like forever. I remember screaming at the TV when Hogan turned heel. As a matter of fact, my first match, I was still real early on in my training, but MPX would do every year this time warp show where everybody would dress up like a classic wrestler. And so me and my trainer did Hogan and Boss Man. And I'm telling you, I had the mustache and I bleached it. And I had my head shaved. I had like the skullet wig. Like I used toupee glue to glue it to my head. I had the whole get up. I even had my buddy Presley come out as Jimmy Hart. And so yeah, all those, those guys from that period of time, like the mid 90s WCW. I mean, I would watch some of the WWE stuff too, but it would be like I'd flip over when WCW was on commercial and then I'd flip back. So
so what I'm hearing is Big Fitz did not take inspiration from Rey Mysterio.
No, I did not. No.
So let's talk about the DoggPound for a little bit. You've been going up there and training with a guy that, we talked before how I was, me and you, we weren't aware of the independent scene. So my only knowledge of Rodney Mack was, White Boy Challenge, his WWE stuff. So coming into SWE, that's all I'd known. I didn't know what to expect. I got to SWE and became a huge Rodney Mack fan. I mean, how could you not? The dude is just legit. The heel turn, he's still loved. I mean, everybody loves that dude, regardless of privilege or whatever. His lines are as long as anybody else at the show for the meet and greet.
Not even there.
So what's it like going to the DoggPound and training with a guy like that, and Jazz for that matter?
I've only gone down there just the once so far. I'm going down all this week, but anytime you can get in front of, if you're a wrestler, anytime you can get in front of a guy like Rodney Mack and just soak up some wisdom, because it's the little things really that you don't even think about. I remember right in the middle of our match at OHB, I'm learning things. The instinct is to turn towards the hard cam when he grabs a hold, right? That's the instinct. Well, we had on the other side, 20 kids screaming their heads off for us, right? So I start turning towards the hard cam. Of course, he knows what I'm doing, and he just stops and he's like, "Fuck that hard cam." And, later he explained to me, like, I get what you're trying to do, and that's right, but there's 20 kids in front of you screaming their heads off, so let's work them. And just those little things that he's picked up from a long and storied career in wrestling is stuff that a guy at my experience level is not even really thinking about all the time. And so anytime you can get an opportunity to learn from somebody like that, it's great. And in the middle of a match, you're going to learn stuff from him. I had a 15-minute match with him and learned a ton in 15 minutes just by virtue of working with him. I remember at one point, and this is a spot show where the majority of the crowd is not going to wrestling shows all the time. These are just people, like, they go to this brewery regularly. Oh, hey, there's a wrestling show. Let's check that out, right? So it's a different kind of environment. The crowd is, number one, they tend to be hotter, but they also don't care about the rules. At one point, I'm outside and he grabs a chair and just wails on me with it. And the ref comes up and kind of like under his breath, like, "Hey man, this isn't a no DQ match." And he just kind of like looks over and he points, and the whole point was, like, they don't care. This spot show, they don't care. As a matter of fact, they're expecting to see somebody get blasted with a chair. So just he has a pretty impressive ability to work a crowd. And,
no doubt.
A simple Rodney Mack match is more entertaining than any of the super indie stuff that goes on.
No doubt about it.
So Big Fitz, you talked about Metroplex Wrestling and your Christian wrestling promotion. How do those compare to SWE Fury, your experiences? I believe you said you're heavyweight champion in one of the promotions. Just sort of compare those for us, because we've watched SWE Fury just ascend to new heights, and it's really just impressive and a testament to the culture and the entire team at SWE Fury. But backstage, as you see it happening, I mean, how do you compare those two? What is SWE Fury doing right?
Well, like I kind of alluded to, there's a place for everyone in wrestling, and these different promotions, they serve different needs, different fan bases. MPX, has the advantage of running weekly. And because they're running weekly, there's a couple of things that are really great about a place like that. The first is that there's tons of new talent rotating in and out of there. The school itself produces some really great talent. I mean, guys like Jackson Stone came out of there, so, and there's a lot of opportunities for guys to get a lot of work. And developing a weekly storyline is something that appeals. Plus the ticket prices are cheap. It's really close to a lot of us in the, in the DFW side of the Metroplex. And so it's a great place to go, and it's a great place for people to work and get some experience and really be involved in some great and creative storylines. They do some cool stuff over there. I still train there once a week whenever I can, as long as my schedule permits. And Stephen Kirby, by the way, the guy that owns the place, and he's the trainer, one of the most underrated guys in Texas, not only as a wrestler, but as a trainer. He's produced a whole ton of great talent. And Casey Clay, he's one of his students. Jackson Stone, these guys are producing a lot of great talent, and not only as a trainer, but as a wrestler. I mean, if you go back and you go look at Stephen Kirby matches, you're number one, you're going to find him having the first match with almost all of his students, and they're never bad. I've never seen anyone have a bad match with Stephen Kirby, and I really wish that guy got more credit. But it serves a particular kind of need and a kind of fan base. And then, Christian Wrestling Federation on the other side of the Metroplex over in Rockwall, we put on a wrestling show, but we also go out and pray with people afterwards. One of the things I like to say, when we go out there is I thank God for the opportunity to do what we're doing there, and I ask him to keep us safe. And I also am asking him to help the people out there, forget what ails them and have a good time. And be comfortable enough with us so that after the lights come up and after the final bell is rung, these people can take their prayer needs to us, and we go out there and pray with people. And so, like I said, do what fills your cup. It's a whole different kind of experience. It's also the only place in the Metroplex that gets me for free. Everybody else pony up the cash. But I've said to them over and over again, you guys let me preach, I'll work for free all you want. The show in Mineola, Texas, just recently I got to preach at. So it's a whole different type of environment. And actually, we've been getting a lot of the guys from Lions Pride down at CWF lately, and that's been pretty exciting. But yeah, I'm the interdenominational champion there right now. I was a heel there for the longest time, and then some people canceled, and they booked me with another heel, and I said, well, I'm going to turn eventually anyway, so let's just do it tonight. So I just kind of spontaneously turned, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But like I said, and SWE, of course, caters to, number one, the old school Texas style of wrestling, first of all. They're bringing in people who, the example that I give is there's people in the audience watching with their kids saying, I used to watch this guy when I was a kid, and so you've got a mix not only of the younger up and coming talent, guys like Bam Bam Malone, who is fantastic, but also, some of the legends of Texas wrestling and wrestling on the national level. So it's a whole different fan base, and obviously the production value is huge. They're putting out a fantastic product. I've never looked as good as I did out in Lubbock. So like I said, there's a place in wrestling for everybody, and all three of those promotions are different. But man, they're all real good at what they do.
All good in their own way. I was gonna ask you just a random story. Do you have any entertaining stories from the road or different shows?
Oh man, I up until recently I haven't gone on the road a whole bunch. Yesterday was kind of rough because I drove to San Antonio to train from Fort Worth, and then trained until 10 and then drove back. So that was fun. But I went out when I went out to Lubbock. I brought Tim Theory and Xavier Daniels with me. And X wanted to come out and do the clinic. He ended up getting a spot on the show that night, which is cool. And so we drove out there, but again, because of the schedule, and I had CWF the night before, and I had my daughter's baptism the next day. So I told him, like, we're not staying in a hotel. We're going early in the morning. You better be at my house by 5 a.m. we're going to the clinic, we're doing the show, and then right after the show, we're leaving and we're coming straight back. So it was a long haul out to Lubbock and back. And I was expecting these guys to help me with the driving on the way back. You know, we're all tired. We're trying to stay awake. Oh, well, you know what kept me awake? Timothy Theory snoring in the passenger seat. And about every half hour, Xavier Daniels would wake up and say, Fitz, you good? And then go back to sleep. That was it. So no super exciting road stories, just me trying to stay awake while Tim Theory is snorting and Xavier Daniels got the protein farts. So that's it.
So I am a sports coach in high school. You know, I coach sports. And it's been an interesting, I've done it for, this is my 4th year now, and it's been an interesting dynamic in balancing family, work, and I've always had respect for guys that wrestle, being on the road so much. How do you balance wrestling, work, family? How does that dynamic work? Because I understand how hard of a task that can be.
You know, I think everybody's got their own kind of way of balancing things. And like I said, for a while, I was working too much and doing too much. And it was having some negative effects on me and you know, on the family too. I mean, the way I do it is, you know, I actually, we have some rules around wrestling in my house. I don't work any more than 2 shows a month unless I'm either holding a belt or involved in a major storyline. Right now, I'm both. So, but we try to limit it. You know, 2 nights of training a week. I'm not, you know, this is kind of an exception because I plan this well in advance. But I'm not out there grinding every single day like some of these other guys are. You know, and it's been suggested to me that kind of limiting things like that is not the greatest way to do things. But again, like I said, I have no illusions. I'm having a great time and learning a ton, but I'm also 39 years old. The long-term prospects of this career for me are not good at this point.
Right.
So, you know, I think everybody kind of has to find their own, you know, balance. And not only that, but what are your goals, you know? Because that's going to dictate what you're doing and how you're prioritizing things. And I have real simple goals, man. I want to go through the curtain and have my daughter cheer for me or boo for me as she does right now. And, you know, I want to have a good time and learn from people. And, you know, I've got a daughter who's a great fan. Like if I'm a heel, she's talking shit, you know, and that's great. And I think she actually prefers it when I'm a heel because it's the one time she is allowed to talk shit and not get grounded for it. So,
yeah,
you know, it
you're
works
free
out.
to be mean to dad for a minute.
But, you know, I try not to take a ton of bookings. And right now I'm taking a lot, just, you know, again, at CWF, I hold a belt and I'm involved in some major stuff over at SWE. But, you know, lots of time for family and you got to prioritize what's important to you. And at the end of the day, I love wrestling, but it's not more important than my wife. So.
Absolutely.
I think some of our fans were able to attend the Lubbock show, not all of them, and we're waiting to get the full episodes and really take a look at it. But one of the rumblings from the show was your professional offer to join Privilege. Are we looking at the newest member of Privilege?
Well, you know, right now I'm a prospect, and what that means is I have to earn my way in, and you know, earn my way in by blood. So I think you guys just need to stay tuned and see what happens with that.
Absolutely.
But you know, strength recognizes strength, right? I mean, Big Fitz is a monster. Big Fitz is, you know, I went out there and destroyed Anthony Anderson in 4 minutes. So I think that a group like Privilege is going to recognize that, you know, you either get this guy on your side or you have to face it. And, you know, let's be honest, they made the right call. So
yeah, with you or against you.
Exactly.
I love your logo or brand design, however you want to say it. How did you get that? That's
this thing, yeah. This guy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, you know, I knew that I wanted to incorporate things, you know, like the Tommy guns and the stick grenades and stuff. And but I have no graphic arts ability whatsoever, right? So I went on a stock vector art page and I found the shield and everything around it. And it's like, you know, royalty free, $14, right? So I grabbed that, I threw Big Fitz in it, and now I have a logo. It's great.
There it is.
Well, you did a great job. It looks good, man.
Did the same thing with my music, and you know, I feel like kind of one of the ways you can tell if somebody's serious about wrestling is if their media looks good. You know,
No doubt.
I've been using Greg for photos for a while. He did my entrance video. He's done my highlight reel. You know, I'm not super great with all that stuff, so
Mm.
I pay for people who are. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I'm personally excited to see more Big Fitz t-shirts and designs at the next show. So I wanted to ask you as well. You sort of alluded to your non-traditional path to wrestling.
Mhm.
How do you feel your prior experiences in life sort of prepared you for this moment?
You know, I think that the biggest advantage I had going into wrestling training was after 17 years in the military in the infantry. Um, I had a pretty good ability to put up with the suck, you know, when your body's hurting and you're exhausted and you don't want to do anything anymore, you know, driving on through all that. So I was already pretty well versed in sort of that thing. You know, I've always been strong and reasonably athletic. You know, obviously I'm closing in on 40, so things are slowing down a little. But you know, again, a full military career, you know, put me in a position to where um, I already had pretty good body control. I mean, you're not going to do too well in the infantry if you can't move good. You know, especially at my size, I'm a big target. I need to be able to move.
Yeah.
So the advantage in training was really I didn't have to spend too much time on learning how to be aware of my own body and to control it. You know, I was able to move, you know, even bumping. First day, I was doing fine with that. You know, and again, just being able to drive on through pain and through not, you know, because wrestling hurts a lot. Uh, um, you know, there's a reason people get offended when people call it fake. You know, because every bit of the aches and pains and the bumps and bruises and the blood, it all feels very real. You know,
Yeah.
when we moved into this house, we built this place. One of the first things I did was put a big hot tub in on a 60 amp circuit. As I come straight from matches and training, I don't even bother to shower off. I just go straight to the backyard and just
Yeah.
jump right in. So you know, having thick skin, having sort of that mental and physical toughness to be able to drive through, you know, a sucky situation. That was the biggest advantage I had.
First and foremost, we all here appreciate and thank you for your service all them years, you know, serving this country. Thank you. We appreciate
it. Thank you for paying for
it. Yes, sir. But one thing I want to see. So August 28th, Irving Convention Center. I would like to see Big Fitz and Scott Steiner. That's what I want to see. What about you guys?
Absolutely.
Can we make that happen? Can we announce that right here, right now?
No. So first of all, I have no idea what I'm doing at that show yet.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, right, as the newest member of Privilege and sort of their bodyguard, right? My first and foremost job is going to be to do whatever those guys tell me to. I have no idea what I'm doing. I will tell you this: the likelihood of a rookie like myself getting to work Scott Steiner is almost nothing. But you know, I am looking forward to the opportunity to meet him. You know, again, these are guys who have done everything that can be done in wrestling, and you know, as a lifelong fan and you know, rookie wrestler myself, even the opportunity to absorb knowledge from these guys is tremendously valuable. So, but I don't think you're going to get your wish. You know, first of all, he's a genetic freak. I mean, that's the first thing. But you're not going to get your wish, I don't think.
Well, while we're on the subject, you know, I grew up. I was really young during the Monday Night Wars, and I was a huge Scott Steiner fan. What were your impressions of Steiner during the Monday Night Wars in WCW?
See, I started watching when he and his brother were still tagging together before he really became Big Papa Pump. So the transition was pretty striking, you know. And the evolution that his character went through was pretty insane. But you know, I was always a big fan of them as a tag team, especially. You know, they were one of them tag teams where they worked really well together. You know, they were very fluid, and it fit. You know, and I think you kind of have seen teams where that's not the case. You know, but they always seemed to just be so smooth. together, and they fit well together. Their personalities were, complementary but different enough to be, unique.
Right.
And man, there's just tag teams in general during that time. There was a lot of really great tag team wrestling, and one of the things that's kind of a bummer about a lot of the indies is, tag team matches are expensive, so you just don't see a whole lot of it. And it's unfortunate because it's a whole different kind of fun.
Right. Well, SWE they've been on fire in the tag team division, and we can't wait to see that. We're super excited to see Steiner, Chavo Guerrero, absolute legends coming in. Fatu, this will be our first opportunity to see him wrestle. So August 28th, man, if anybody watching, if you ain't got your tickets yet, you better go get them, because there might not be any left at the show. That place is going to be crazy. It was crazy last time it was there. It's going to be even better this time. Man.
I got one more question for you, Big Fitz. Saying that you're going to align yourself with privilege, you understand going into Irving, it's going to be hostile territory. And we saw at the last Irving show, Charlie Haas was attacked by a fan. I mean, myself, Case, Jeffrey, we were front row as it happened. I mean, we asked ourselves, is there enough security in place? I mean, what is being done to make sure this doesn't happen to you or to anyone else? I mean, what's your
right there?
So, I'll say a couple of things about this. The first thing is that, there's been some discussion, and I'm not privy to what their plans are, but there's been some discussion to kind of rein in this sort of stuff. But, it's kind of it's a weird situation because, fans increasingly at some promotions are forgetting that, like, they're fans. And they want to get involved. They want to, pop over the barricade and jump in the ring sometimes at some promotions. And we've had guys over at MPX that get a little too froggy and end up getting put in their place. I told you guys from the beginning that, my character wouldn't do one of these. So this is a shoot interview. You're just talking to me right now. I'll tell you right now, if a fan puts his hands on me, I'm whooping that ass. Because I'm getting real tired of people forgetting that there's that barrier, that there's that line. And at the end of the day, you put your hands on talent, I got no sympathy for what the hell happens to you.
No.
So hey, that's one of the reasons I'm there. Somebody comes out and throws a punch at Charlie, he's not even going to have time to react because Big Fitz is going to be on him.
Big Fitz is there, earning that spot.
So quickly, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me either your top 5 or your top 3 favorite wrestlers ever.
Favorite wrestlers ever. Okay. Well, this is probably going to be kind of controversial because of the events of a few years ago. But number one's Hulk Hogan, absolutely.
Okay.
Without a doubt. And one could make the argument that Hulk Hogan's not a great person, and the Terry Bollea is not a great person, right? The character and the person playing him, I have the wherewithal to separate them. I also think that he was under a hell of a lot of stress, and we should give him some grace. But Hulk Hogan, there's almost nobody who is more influential in the transition of wrestling from the kind of state it was in into the nationwide phenomenon that it was. I mean,
no doubt,
McMahon and Hulk Hogan and the stuff that they did. Let's see. Kevin Nash has got to be my number 2. And gosh, it's probably a little bit of a corny choice, but Hacksaw Jim Duggan, man. Like,
I love you.
I like I said, that was my first experience with wrestling, and I was like 10 years old, I think, when that happened. And I just remember seeing this on TV. I'm flipping through, and I'm like, "There's this massive guy in there," and Yokozuna, and then out comes this dude, and he's got a big piece of wood in one hand and an American flag in the other. And of course, like, oh, this is obviously the good guy, right?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he knocks him down, and then Mr. Fuji comes in and gets him in the eyes with that stuff, and then here comes Yokozuna just bouncing on this guy's chest, and then he starts spitting up blood, and I'm 10 years old, and I'm running into my grandmother's kitchen like, they're killing him on live TV. I'm freaking out because I think somebody's dying on TV, and I was absolutely hooked. So yeah, that would have to be the third one there.
Oh man!
Awesome. You want to go 5 or keep it at 3?
Let's keep it at 3, I think.
That'll work.
Gosh.
Yeah, you know what? No, I'll pick a couple more.
I'm extending it.
I probably Rey Mysterio would be in there too.
Hey,
And you know, not only just because of how tremendously agile that guy is, right? But you show me another guy that size who made a match against somebody my size or larger than me.
You're not gonna find anybody else.
Not only entertaining but believable. I mean,
Yes.
Rey Mysterio and the Big Show.
Yes.
Like nobody watches that match
Mhm.
and doesn't buy into it. You know, I mean, the ultimate underdog story, and he consistently had that ability to make those, not only make it believable but make you invested, man. When Rey Mysterio was in the ring, you wanted that guy to win. You know, I some of the matches I screamed the most at the TV were Mysterio matches.
And to put lucha style wrestling in the national spotlight.
Yeah.
I love that style of wrestling.
And WCW was, you know, in its effort to like differentiate itself, they were just like, let's find all the best luchadors and just hire them. And so for a while, it was almost like, is this WCW or is this a lucha show? But you know, just watching it was a totally different kind of wrestling to much of the American audience. A lot of the American audience at the time really hadn't seen a lot of it, and it set them apart. And then Eddie Guerrero, man, like, I almost can't think of a more effective heel than that guy. I mean, the innovative ways that he would cheat, the innovative, like losing his shoe and turning that into a win. And I've used this at shows, the whole like hit the chair on the ground, toss it to the guy, and then lay, you know. The guy was a genius, and and he's another one of those guys who you're almost never going to find a bad match with him in it.
Yep. Strictly out of curiosity, where would you have Stone Cold?
He would have to be up there too, man. I mean, he'd easily be in the top 10. The only reason he isn't higher for me is because, like I said, during that whole time I was watching mostly WCW. Kind of with the, you know, with hindsight and whatnot, I wish I would have watched more of the WWE product at the time. But I mean, gosh, the whole Austin 316 promo is iconic, right? And you know, you've got a guy who had to make some significant modifications, not only to the way he wrestled, but his character, you know, to accommodate injury, to accommodate what you know, what they wanted from him. And he turned, you know, what could have been a 3 or 4 week come and go type thing into, you know, a multi-year phenomenon that made him an absolute superstar.
No doubt. No doubt. His run wasn't very long, but it was freaking explosive. Case,
just before we close, again, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on. Cannot explain how much we appreciate it. And we do really look forward to seeing you at the end of the month. Mike?
Yeah, Big Fitz, I want to thank you again for joining us. You know, we're coming up on 10 episodes of the Fury Report, and it's just been a blast to just get to know so much of the talent at SWE Fury, and we're excited for the future. I mean, we've just seen the company explode since our first show in Carthage, and there's really no sign of slowing down. So we're happy that you're a part of it, and we're excited to see where you go from here.
Yeah, me too, man. It's wild stuff, and you know, thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing you guys out in Irving, and you won't see me for long because whoever they put in the ring with me is not going to last more than a couple of minutes. But you know, we'll do what we can.
Sounds good.
Is there anything you want to plug as far as upcoming shows or anything you got going? Anything you want to get out there to the people?
Yeah, I mean, other than the Irving show on the 28th, you know, check out Christian Wrestling Federation. It's a great ministry. They're doing a lot of good things. And you know, I'm very privileged to be a part of it, and especially to have them put their confidence in me to make me one of their champions. And you can check me out on Facebook. Look for Big Fitz, like my page. That's the only social media I have right now. I probably should fix that, but I don't like Twitter or Instagram, so I might have to pay somebody to do that for me. But yeah, check out Christian Wrestling Federation, and hope to see everybody at the Irving show August 28th. It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. It's going to be it's already a stacked card. Big name legends coming in August 28th, Irving Convention Center. Go to Eventbrite, buy your tickets, sign your kids up for the kids camp, go to the training camp, do all of it, man. It's a whole lot of bang for your buck. Okay. You won't find anything like it. If you're a wrestling fan, it's incredible. There's no other way to put it. So can't wait to do it. Can't wait to see Big Fitz, what happens with Privilege. So many storylines, so many big name matches. Can't wait. Big Fitz, we sure do appreciate you coming on and giving us a little bit of your time.
Thanks a lot. I had a good time, guys.
Yes, sir.